Imagine this. Your own mother, the woman who gave you life, sits your fiancé down over a glass of wine. And instead of welcoming her into the family, she tells her to leave you and marry your older brother instead. And your fiancé? She actually does it. But here's the thing. 6 years later, this man came back. And when his mother, his brother, and his ex walked into a room with his name on every banner, their entire world collapsed. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Reddit Drama. If you're new here, we cover the most insane Reddit stories on the internet. The betrayals, the revenge, the family drama that makes your own family look like saints. And today I have a story that genuinely shook me. I'm not gonna lie. I've covered hundreds of Reddit stories on this channel. But this one is different. This isn't just family drama. This is a masterclass in betrayal. And an even bigger masterclass in revenge. So grab your snacks. Get comfortable. Because this story is a movie. But before the revenge, you need the backstory. And trust me, the backstory is where the pain starts. So our main character, let's call him Kabir. 23 years old when this story begins. Now, Kabir wasn't broke. He wasn't a failure. He was a junior architect at a small firm.
Passionate about his work.
The kind of guy who'd rather design something beautiful than post about it online. But here's the thing about Kabir's family. He had an older brother, Vikram.
Vikram.
Where do I even begin? Vikram was everything their mother wanted in a son. Fancy cars, penthouse apartment, vacation photos from exotic islands. The kind of guy whose Instagram looks like a luxury travel magazine. And their mother, Soraya? She had made it crystal clear, from the time these boys were young, exactly who she believed in. Vikram was the star. Vikram was the future. Vikram was destined for greatness. And Kabir? Kabir was the one she'd look at and say, "That's a nice start, but maybe you should aim higher." Now, if you grew up in a household where one sibling got all the praise and you got none, you know exactly how this feels. It's not that she screamed at him. She didn't need to. It was worse than that. She had this way of packaging insults as advice, making him feel like he was always almost good enough, but never quite there. And here's what's important to understand. This wasn't just sibling rivalry. This was a system. A family system designed around one simple idea. Vikram is the winner. Kabir is the audience. And for most of his life, Kabir accepted that role. Not because he agreed with it, but because when your own mother tells you that's your place, you believe her. But then something happened. Something that made Kabir think maybe his luck was changing.
He met someone.
And for the first time in his life, someone saw him. Not his brother's shadow. Not his mother's disappointment. Just him. Mira. She was warm. She was funny. She was grounded. She didn't care that Kabir wasn't driving a BMW or living in a penthouse. She liked that he was passionate about his work. She liked that he wasn't obsessed with showing off. In a world full of Vikrams trying to prove something, Kabir was just real. They got engaged after a year, planning a small, elegant wedding. Nothing flashy, just something that reflected who they were as a couple. Now, you'd think a mother would be happy, right? Your son found love. He's building his life.
He's happy. Yeah.
Not Soraya. She was polite about it. Let's call it that. But Kabir could feel it. That thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. The comments started immediately. She'd say things like, "You're sure you can provide for her?" Or, my personal favorite, "It's a big responsibility, Kabir. Women have needs." Women have needs. What does that even mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means Soraya was already planting the idea that Kabir wasn't enough. Not enough for a woman. Not enough to be a husband. Not enough to be a man. And Kabir? He brushed it off. He'd grown up hearing this. It was just mom being mom. But here's where my heart breaks. Because Kabir loved his mother. Despite everything, he still wanted her approval. He still hoped that maybe this time she'd be happy for him. But then came the family dinner. The dinner where the first Rayal crack appeared. And what Soraya said at that table in front of Kabir to his own fiancé This is where you'll start to see exactly what kind of woman we're dealing with. Now, before I tell you what Soraya said at this dinner, if you're enjoying this story, and trust me, we haven't even gotten to the crazy part yet,
Hit subscribe.
turn on notifications. Because we cover stories like this regularly. And this channel, we don't just read Reddit posts. We break them down.
All right.
The dinner. Let's go. Picture this. A long mahogany dining table. Roasted chicken. Wine glasses. Soraya sitting at the head of the table like a queen holding court. Kabir across from Vikram. Mira beside Kabir. Everything seems normal. Just a family meal. Small talk. Passing the salt. And then between bites of chicken, Soraya looks directly at Mira. And says this. Mira, you'd look stunning in a place like Vikram's penthouse. You've been there, haven't you? Mira smiled politely and said no. And Soraya? She didn't even blink. You should. The view of the city is incredible. I keep telling Vikram he should settle down. Someone like you could inspire him to. Did you catch that? She just told her son's fiancé, at the dinner table, with her son right there, that she'd be a better match for the other brother. The audacity. Kabir laughed it off. He told himself it was just mom being her usual tone-deaf self. But under the table, Mira's hand was stiff in his. Her fingers tense, her jaw tight. And that night, Mira asked Kabir a question that should have been a warning. Does your mom not like me? And Kabir said what we all say when we don't want to face the truth. It's not you. She's just always been like that. Famous last words. But here's what Kabir didn't realize. That dinner? That wasn't just an awkward comment. That was Soraya firing the opening shot. Over the next few months, little things started changing. Mira would come back from errands and mention, casually, that she'd run into Vikram. Just happened to be in the same part of town. Just a coincidence.
Sure.
Then she started getting texts from Soraya, inviting her to help plan a surprise for Kabir. Which sounds sweet, until Kabir noticed that those surprises, they never materialized. No party, no gift, no plan, nothing. And when Kabir asked Mira about them, she got vague. Just small talk, she'd say. Nothing really. Here's the thing, those surprise planning sessions? Those were grooming sessions. Every single meeting between Soraya and Mira was designed to do one thing. Plant seeds of doubt about Kabir. Make Mira compare her life to what she could have with Vikram. Slowly, carefully, turn her away from the man she was supposed to marry. It's textbook manipulation. And it was working. But Kabir didn't know any of this. Not until one night, when he saw something through a window that changed his life forever. It was a late night. Kabir had been working on a project at the firm. Nothing unusual. On his way home, he decided to swing by his parents' house. His mother had been asking for some old family photos. Simple errand. In and out. But as he pulled into the driveway, he noticed something. Vikram's car. Parked out front. Again, not unusual by itself. Brothers visit their parents. That's normal. But as Kabir walked up toward the front door, he heard laughter, spilling from the living room.
Warm.
Comfortable, like people who'd been there for a while. And then instinct kicked in. Not suspicion. Just a feeling. He moved to the side window. And he looked in. Soraya, Vikram, and Mira, sitting together. Wine glasses in hand. Deep in conversation. Now you might be thinking, okay, so they're having wine together. Maybe it's innocent. Maybe it's just family bonding. Except, Soraya was leaning forward, speaking in a low voice. Clear enough for Kabir to hear through that window. And what she said, Mira, you're a smart woman. Vikram can give you the life Kabir never could. He's already established. He can give you security, status, everything a woman deserves. I need everyone to stop and process what just happened. This mother is sitting in her own living room, actively pitching her younger son's fiancé to her older son, like a business deal. And Vikram? He wasn't embarrassed. He wasn't uncomfortable. He was smirking, like this was all perfectly natural. But here's the detail that absolutely destroyed me. Mira didn't look offended.
She didn't push back.
She didn't say, "What are you talking about? I love Kabir." She looked thoughtful, like she was actually considering it. Remember earlier when I said Mira's hand was tense under the table at that dinner? She wasn't uncomfortable because Soraya was being inappropriate. She was tense because she was already weighing her options. Kabir's heart was pounding so hard, he thought they might hear it through the glass. He didn't stick around. He didn't confront them. He just left, drove home, sat in the dark for hours. And in that silence, replaying every word, every coincidental meeting between Vikram and Mira, every surprise plan that never happened, everything clicked. His instinct told him to confront them, blow up,
Scream.
demand answers. But another part of him, the quieter, colder part, told him to wait,
To watch.
to see exactly how deep this went. And what happened over the next 2 weeks confirmed his worst fears. Over the next 2 weeks, Kabir watched everything fall apart in slow motion. Mira started pulling away. Too tired for date nights. Too busy for wedding planning. And if you've ever been in a relationship where someone is checking out, you know this feeling. It's not one big moment. It's 100 small ones. The unreturned texts. The half-hearted kisses. The way someone looks at you, but doesn't really see you anymore. And then came the conversation. Mira sat him down at his own kitchen table, hands folded neatly in front of her, like she was in a business meeting. "Kabir, I think we rushed into this." His chest tightened. She talked about needing stability, about not being aligned for the future. Stability. Aligned for the future. Those aren't Mira's words. Those are Soraya's words, fed to her like a script. And Kabir knew it too. He could hear his mother's voice in every single sentence. But the final blow, the one that ended everything, Mira looked at him and said, "Vikram understands what I need." Kabir didn't ask if she meant emotionally or financially. He didn't need to. She packed her things within the week. No dramatic fight.
No begging.
Kabir just let her go. But as she walked out his door, suitcase in hand, she gave him this look. Half guilty, half triumphant. And Kabir knew. Soraya had gotten exactly what she wanted. Most stories would end here. The quiet defeat. The younger son loses again. But Kabir? Kabir made a decision that night that nobody saw coming. He didn't just move on.
He vanished.
Kabir cut off all contact. No calls.
No texts.
No holiday visits. No forwarding address.
He left his job.
Moved to a different city. And started building his life from the ground up with a kind of single-minded focus he'd never had before. And here's what I love about this part of the story. He didn't disappear because he was broken. He disappeared because he was transforming.
He started his own design firm.
Small team. Risky contracts. The kind of bets that could have destroyed him if they failed. They didn't fail. Within 3 years, his firm was winning bids against companies that had once turned him away without a second glance.
He didn't post about it.
He didn't send updates. He didn't call his mother to say, "Look at me now," because he knew his family. If they didn't hear his name, they'd assume he was still the second-place son. And that suited him just fine. But while Kabir was quietly building his empire, the other side was rewriting history. Old family friends would email him.
Just checking in, they'd say.
Then casually dropping comments like, "Vikram and Mira are doing so well. They bought a huge house in the suburbs. Vikram's business is booming." But here's the part that made my blood boil. Soraya was telling everyone that Vikram had saved Mira from a life of uncertainty. She wasn't just moving on. She was rewriting the entire story, erasing Kabir from his own life. And you know what? That kind of narrative control is the most dangerous form of manipulation. Because once enough people believe it, it becomes the truth. But then came the night that changed everything. About 2 years after he left, Kabir attended an industry event. Just networking. Meeting potential partners. Normal stuff. And then he heard a laugh. A familiar laugh. He turned toward the sound. And there they were. Vikram. In a tailored navy suit. Glass in hand. holding court with a small circle of people. And Mira, on his arm, wearing a diamond bracelet that screamed, "Look what I can afford." Kabir considered walking the other way, but then he overheard something. "Yeah, my mom always knew I was the one who'd make something of himself." My brother? Well, he meant well, but he didn't have the drive. Mira saw that too. He meant well. Vikram just publicly dismissed his brother's entire existence in a room full of professionals, while wearing the life he stole. And Mira? She just sipped her wine. With the faintest smirk. Kabir had to walk outside before he said something he'd regret. The anger became fuel. What happened over the next few years was nothing short of a transformation. Kabir didn't just work hard. He worked with surgical precision. Every pitch was sharper. Every proposal was backed by research, so tight it was impossible to refuse. He expanded into markets he'd been cautious about. High-end commercial spaces, luxury residential projects, clients with deep pockets, and even deeper expectations. Within 8 months, his company wasn't just profitable. It was thriving. His face appeared on the cover of an industry magazine. His name was in publications that mattered. But he didn't stop at architecture. He diversified. Real estate investments, partnerships, hospitality ventures, even a stake in a tech startup run by a friend from his early career. Every move was deliberate. Every step made it harder for anyone to call him the weak one. And then he met Anaya,
His wife.
his partner, his equal. She wasn't just stunning. She was his sounding board, his confidant. She never pushed him to act against his family. But she understood. Sometimes she understood without him even saying the words. Together, they traveled.
Paris.
Santorini, Kyoto. Each trip a reminder of the life he built without anyone's approval. And while Kabir was rising, guess what was happening to Vikram? Exactly what you think. Contracts falling through. Investors pulling out. Missed deadlines. Rumors that he'd over-leveraged himself buying that mansion. The castle was crumbling. And Mira? I heard her name paired with words like restless and isolated. Turns out, stability and status don't keep you warm at night when the man providing them isn't the one you respected. He's the one you settled for. But Kabir didn't gloat.
Not yet.
Because the opportunity he'd been waiting for was about to arrive. A charity gala, crystal chandeliers, cameras flashing, a string quartet playing in the background. And Kabir?
He wasn't a guest.
He was the host. The man who'd once been described as still figuring things out was now the man running the show. Invitations had gone out everywhere. Some of them intentionally reaching into the old social circles where his family still lingered. And then they walked in. Soraya, Vikram, and Mira, arms linked like a family portrait, dressed to impress, clearly thinking they were the stars of the evening, until they saw whose name was printed on the gold-trimmed program. Vikram's face flickered with something between surprise and discomfort. Soraya tried to recover with a gracious smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. And Mira? Her eyes darted from Kabir to Anaya standing beside him in an emerald green gown. And something in her expression tightened. Recognition. Regret. Reality. Can you imagine that feeling? Walking into what you think is just another fancy party, and realizing the person you threw away is the one who OWNS the room? Soraya approached Kabir, and with the warmth of someone who hadn't betrayed her own child. Kabir, what a surprise to see you here. And Kabir?
Cool. Steady.
Not a single crack in his composure. Not a surprise, Mom. I co-chair this year. The flicker in her eyes was almost imperceptible, but Kabir caught it. Throughout the cocktail hour, Kabir moved through the crowd, shaking hands, smiling for photos, being exactly what they never thought he could be. And then he approached their table, deliberately calm. Vikram, I hear you've been busy in real estate. Vikram straightened.
Pleased to be acknowledged.
Yeah, working on some big deals. Actually, I've been looking at that downtown development. Might be the right fit for me. And Kabir? He gave a slow nod and said, The 1MY company's funding. 5 words. 5 words. And the entire power dynamic shifted. An investor at the next table turned his head. Interest caught. Vikram blinked, trying to mask the sudden calculation in his eyes. And Soraya? She recovered first. Of course she did. She's been manipulating people her whole life. Well, isn't that a coincidence? Maybe you two could work together. And Kabir, with a smile that could cut glass, said, "We're being very selective. Only working with partners who have the right stability and reputation. It's not personal. It's just business." He used their own word against them. Stability. Remember? That was the word Mira used when she left him. I need stability. Well now, they were the unstable ones. But the gala night? That was just the warm-up. Because what Kabir overheard later that evening proved they hadn't changed. At all. 40 minutes into the gala. Speeches had just ended.
Kabir noticed something.
Vikram and Mira slipping away from the main floor. And then, Soraya following them. That same instinct kicked in. The same one from the window years ago. He followed. Quietly. Through the corridors. Past waiters carrying champagne. Until he found them in a private room.
Door half open.
And what he heard proved that these people would never change. You need to use this. He's in over his head here. All this flash, all these people, it's just for show. Find out who's backing him. If we can get in on it, we can make sure he doesn't shut us out again. She's at her son's event, drinking his champagne, and she's plotting to undermine him. I doubt he's got the capital for something like this on his own. Probably some investor propping him up. We figure out who, maybe offer them a better deal. Even now, standing in a room Kabir built, Vikram still can't accept that his younger brother might actually be better than him. But then, Mira spoke, and what she said,
Or, I could just talk to him. He used to trust me.
He'd tell me things if I approached it the right way. He's still a man, Vikram. You know how to use that. I need everyone to sit with that for a second. This woman, who once promised to marry Kabir, was casually offering to seduce her ex-fiancé as a business strategy. At his event, in his building, while drinking his wine. But the final knife came from Soraya. He was always the weak one. He's lucky we even came tonight. He was always the weak one. His own mother, standing in a building made possible by his work, his vision, his refusal to stay small, still calling him the weak one. And that was the moment. The last shred of family loyalty Kabir had been carrying, snapped clean in two. No more chances. He stepped back from the doorway, his decision already forming. If they wanted a game, he'd give them one. But it wouldn't be the game they thought they were playing. Kabir didn't confront them. That would have been too easy. And easy wasn't what they deserved. The development project Vikram was chasing? The luxury mixed-use building in the booming part of the city? Kabir's stake was hidden behind a holding company. Layers of investment partners. On paper, he was just one of many. In reality, he had more influence over that project than anyone on the outside could guess. He called his contact on the project board, a man named Harrington. I hear there's interest from Vikram. Harrington smirked. Your brother? He's been making noise. But his proposal is shaky. And between you and me, his reputation isn't helping. And just like that, Vikram's access to the biggest deal of his career now depended entirely on the brother he'd dismissed. Poetic, isn't it? But Kabir wasn't done. He was co-chairing an even bigger annual fundraising event. A power nexus. Deals made over champagne. Introductions that could change someone's life overnight. And on that guest list near the bottom, 3 names. Soraya, Vikram, Mira. It wasn't a peace offering. It was bait. He knew they'd accept. Pride wouldn't let them stay away. Not from an event where Kabir would be at the center. The second gala night arrived. Crisp autumn evening. Art Deco theater. Every window glowing. Kabir stood at the entrance with Anaya, greeting guests. Every handshake deliberate. When Soraya stepped out of that black sedan in her navy gown, scanning the crowd for recognition, Kabir didn't flinch. Kabir, what a surprise to see you here. Not a surprise, Mom. I co-chair this year. Their table was positioned in full view of the stage. And more importantly, within earshot of every investor Vikram had been trying to court. During the auction segment, an exclusive architectural consultation donated by Kabir came up for bidding. Vikram raised his paddle. The room murmured. And Kabir? Into the microphone. That's generous, Vikram. Though I should mention, the consultation is contingent on working with clients whose projects align with our brand standards. Everyone in that room understood. Vikram lowered his paddle. Face tight. Soraya's lips pressed thin. And Mira? She suddenly found her wine glass very interesting. He shut them out.
Publicly. Politely. Devastatingly.
And they couldn't even call it petty, because it was just business. The fallout was swift. 2 days later, Harrington called. Just a heads up. We told Vikram we're going in a different direction. Within a month, 2 more investors pulled out. His company's social media went quiet. The flashy appearances dried up. That big, beautiful suburban mansion, the one that was supposed to prove Vikram had won, quietly listed for sale. By winter. And Mira? She didn't stick around. Resurfaced in another city. Her name appearing in charity event write-ups occasionally, but always without that same sheen. Turns out, when the money dries up, the stability and status she chose, they evaporate too. Remember when she said, Vikram understands what I need? Apparently what she needed had an expiration date. And Soraya? She tried once. 1 voicemail. I think we should talk. Family's important. Kabir never called back. There was nothing left to say. Family, is important. But not the kind that treats you like a pawn. The following year, Kabir hosted the gala again. Bigger. Brighter. More exclusive. Standing on stage during the opening speech, he scanned the room. He thought about the first gala. When they'd walked in believing they still held power over him. They hadn't come back. He raised his glass, the lights catching on the rim, to progress. And to remembering that those who doubt you often end up proving you right. The crowd laughed and clinked glasses. But in Kabir's mind, he was toasting 3 empty seats that no one had noticed were missing. So, my verdict on this story. Kabir was never the weak one. He was the one they needed to be weak, so they could feel strong. The scapegoat became the king. Soraya wasn't a concerned mother. She was a narcissist who couldn't handle her younger son building something outside her control. Vikram wasn't the golden child because he earned it. He was golden because Soraya painted him that way. And Mira? She wasn't manipulated. She made a conscious, calculated choice. And when that choice stopped paying dividends, she disappeared. This isn't just a revenge story. This is proof that the people who throw you away don't get to pick you back up when you become valuable. But I want to hear from you. Would you have forgiven them? Or would you have done what Kabir did? Drop your verdict in the comments. Team forgiveness or team cold revenge? And if someone in your family ever made you feel like the second choice, I want to hear that story too. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. We cover stories like this every single week. Drop a like if the story hit you. Check out this video right here for another story that absolutely broke Reddit. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.